Hey, we're going with it. Hey, that's not bad. It gets the green one too.
Yeah, that looks good. It's muted.
You muted it?
Yeah.
You can mute it? Oh,
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
You're going to be in control of that.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. So if there's ever, it's not muted. Oh, really? That's weird.
Testing, testing, testing. Live feed testing. Audio monitor, can you still hear this? Okay.
There's the mute doesn't do anything.
Okay. No mute controls.
Is that mute? No. It's almost too bad we can't just.
Oh, we got a dim. I forgot to dim. I mean, it's not gonna hold on.
It's better.
Order the Committee on Community Improvement. We're here tonight to discuss the proposed grant criteria for the City of Bowling Green ARPA funds. We have allocated $500,000 to nonprofits in the community, and we are going to discuss the criteria for distributing those funds. Before us is a submission from Martha Wilkie, and I think this would probably be the place for us to begin discussions. So all of the criteria look good to me, except for the maximum grant amount, which is currently suggested at $10,000. I don't believe we have five. We have 5 requests right now, and all 5 of the requests were for above 10,000. Oh, thank you so much. I guess before we dive in, I'd like to invite members of the community who are interested in discussing this issue. Would you please call them up? The people who have signed up, we'll call them up.
Todd Saylor. Okay.
Yeah, there we go. Hello, members. How are you guys? I'm Todd Saylor from Bowling Green Christian Food Pantry. I'm representing the pantry director there. During COVID, we helped over 5,000 families. You got to think about the amount of people. If you say 4 people per family, and we were doing a bi-weekly with the U.S. government, handing out food until they lost their jobs. And sorry, I'm not very good at public speaking here. But so what it is, all of a sudden COVID hit. Okay? Everything went to a shutdown. Everybody just shut their doors, but we remained open to the public. We knew the mental part of it, aspect where you had to have a face-to-face contact. We had to listen to the people in the crisis. We had to direct them to where they needed to go, and we had to provide food. We never once shut our doors. So it's a very important thing to recognize during COVID. We ended up buying a 11 by 19 walk-in cooler from the one of our local realtors helped us. One of the realtors helped us with that, and then we ended up getting a grant for this cooler to be built in to our complex. this held, I don't know if you saw the pictures in there, but this held probably about 8 to 10 pallets. The pallets were about this tall, and then we were able to take them on the pallets into the walk-in cooler. And then we had lines wrapped around the city, down our block, and we had the military there to help us with the guiding everybody in. So what I'm saying is we were there for the community, and it takes money to do what we did. And we, for a $10,000, what I heard is just way under for what we need. We have equipment, we have, our budget yearly just for us is $54,000 a year. We have had a major increase of people that we have seen in this, just this past year, which is almost double. And then our finances, because of COVID and people losing their jobs and not being able to work, has went significantly down. So we never reached out before, but we're asking for help. We want to continue to help the community. We want to help. We just want to help the community. We ended up creating the Eagle Scout had a project that came in. And we said, how can we serve the community for 24 hours a day? We built the Eagle Scout, we ended up building 2 boxes out front, one for food donations, one for people that were like, we're shut down, we can still serve the public. That is going so great. All the homeless people, yes, we have homeless in Bowling Green. All the homeless people will come up, they will grab that, we have can openers out there for them, we have the food supplies. And then when we're off hours with the people, it's called the working poor, where they just above the poverty line, but if something takes them out, then they're below the poverty line. We want to help those people and the loss of jobs. So they're able to come to our pantry, go to these boxes, and we have pre-made food boxes for them. We're a pantry of choice, so during COVID, we stayed open, so you preserve dignity when people come through. It's just like, if you've never been to our facility, I bet you come see it. You come in, you won't come to our lobby. It's not very big. You check in there, and we have 3 rooms of food that's set up. And as you're walking with the client.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. We're gonna have to discuss the legislation. So if there is if I could ask you to send out your request.
So yeah, okay, that's what it is. I just want to get that picture there. So there's a bunch of rooms, we get a choice, which takes longer. So that's what we're asking. We need a pantry truck with refrigeration. It's going to run about $70,000. Our budget runs $54,000 a year. Our freezers, just to maintain them, we had to get engineering permits. We had to get the electrician to come in. That's $26,000. We run out of 8 freezers. We have forklifts, tow motor. So the 3-stage, it goes up 3 tiers because we have high shelving and everything. That's $26,000. So we're asking for a total of $176,000 to keep our equipment up and to cover 1 year's of expense to run the pantry for the public, for Bowling Green, the city of Bowling Green.
Thank you.
Sorry to get off track, I just wanted to describe what a pantry was.
We also wanted to make a note that the money that's coming to the city of Bowling Green, 1.4 million, is a result of the government supplying Bowling Green with that money because of COVID. And so we were exercising our right to help others, and really nobody else was open that we could do that because we had the opportunity. And we had to have the military help us to do that, and we had to have other people because there was so much demand. And I don't think that was ever recognized by the city, but I think that they ought to know how much dedication it took to leave those doors open, even more open than normal, to serve the people who stood in need. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Excellent, thank you so much. Let us dive into the legislation. As I was mentioning, I think we have allocated $500,000 to nonprofits in the community. At this point, we only have 5 requests for the money. I imagine there will be an additional granting period. But I think that we should prioritize I think there should be some language in here that prioritizes the people who have already requested money through the process that we set up as a city. And I do think that $10,000 is too low to, it doesn't fully meet the needs of any of the 5 requests that we currently have in front of us.
Mr. Chair. You had given us direction to go with this as a starting point. And you also mentioned some sort of priority for those that have already applied. So what I request discussion on is adding 3 provisions and also eliminating maximum grant of 10,000. The 3 provisions are 1, 2, and 4 of the email that I sent you, give you a copy of. I will read them. 1 is rescue funds to those nonprofit organizations whose clientele substantially include individuals who are Bowling Green residents and have been most negatively impacted by COVID, parentheses, e.g. lower income, those with food insecurity, unemployed, and parentheses. The second is those nonprofit organizations which have previously expressed their need to counsel during the ARPA process timeframe should be given priority, given first consideration. And I would add that doesn't mean that they can bypass the filing requirements. And the third part is periodic reports should be made to the Community Improvement Committee, including allocations and any issues, need for direction, and suggestions, just to keep the communication open in case they need further direction. And I'm not sure whether we need to set a maximum, but that would be maybe another motion. So I would like to see the maximum grant of 10,000 dropped or revised, and then those 3 parts that I mentioned. The first one basically is to emphasize that we're dealing with trying to minister to individuals who were impacted by COVID. And then a priority, as you mentioned, for those that have already started the process. And then a periodic reporting.
I guess my question would be, why do you prefer this over the current language, which suggests that they have to be resident, the organizations have to be located in 43402 and 43403, which is the city limits.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that. I was emphasizing the residents.
Okay, I just feel like the money was allocated to the city, so we should be distributing it to
Residents in the city,
organizations in the city.
organizations, regardless of who they.
Well, I mean, there's organizations outside the city that serve our citizens, so I don't want the money going outside.
Yeah, I wasn't negating what was already on here, Joel. So the number 1 is still there.
I guess I just didn't see it in your language.
Yeah, you had directed us to go off of what Martha sent us. So all I'm saying with Martha is change or eliminate item 3, which is the maximum of 10,000, and then adding the 3 sections that I mentioned. So it's not replacing them, it's adding to.
Your document doesn't have any reference to the zip codes.
You directed us not to go off of my document, but to go off of Martha's. So I'm going off of Martha's and taking
I
items.
understand. So you're taking selected language from your document.
Yeah, because
that
a lot of it was.
I understand.
from Martha's, yeah. So I'd be adding from my document 1, 2, and 4. And on Martha's,
I understand. That clarifies things. Thank you.
very welcome, sir.
I guess we should talk about it doesn't seem like there's too much issue with most of the language. I guess we should talk about the maximum grant amount.
Mr. Chairman, apologize, my voice is probably not gonna last the rest of this evening. I guess as a starting point, very wary of micromanaging Martha, who we delegated this work to. I think she's got more experience in this area than probably the 3 of us combined, maybe the 7 of us combined, when you're looking at a larger group. The maximum grant amount, I'm not against tweaking per se. I do think it is worth noting that one of the goals for both the administration and city council as a whole is having as broad an impact as possible. Obviously, if we are giving out $150,000 grants, that's gonna go a lot faster than a micro grant program, which is what I think we've got in front of us here. Again, not saying one way or another, but I think we are going to be limiting the number of individuals we are helping if we start buying vehicles versus other minor expenses that other nonprofits might have.
I don't disagree with Jeff, except if you take a look, for example, at the proposals that were before us before. If you think of when we had our ARPA meeting, there were a number of nonprofits that had submitted proposals, and they were in the $50,000 range. So for me, the 10,000 is too low. 100,000 could possibly be too high. To me, a sweet spot would be around 75,000. Not to say that they have to ask for it, or not to say that we have to grant it if they ask for more, but that would be a good way to kind of be the middle ground of spreading the monies, but also being able to minister to those that have frankly have come to us before with well thought out proposals. And if you think back to when we did have the meeting, the concern that the vibe I got was not necessarily the nonprofits that had applied, but that we didn't want to write a check directly to them. In other words, it would be beneficial as a check of process to have the grants department minister it. So to me, it was the rationale was to have a city department be able to make sure that there is accountability and that the steps are followed. And that, of course, is what the grants department would do. And Martha gave a number of guidelines that she gleaned in general with her experience. So for me, I don't want the process to get in the way. I think it's good to have that layer, but those 5 that had, or so that had requested monies were in the 50 to 75, I don't remember the exact amounts. So let's make it 75. Let's have Martha be organizing it and making sure that she gets the information and the follow-up and the auditing that's needed. And go on, and then every once in a while she can give us a report.
I might prefer, if they were asking for 50 initially, I might prefer a $50,000 limit.
Mr. Jarrett, the only thing I would add is that we can always give out more grants or raise that limit. it's gonna be a lot harder to come up with more money to grant that if we want to go that way. So I would prefer starting lower and we can increase it. I don't necessarily agree with the hands-on approach by the Community Improvement Committee that is proposed here, but that is one the metric that we can keep a close eye on and adjust later if needed.
Are you talking about point number 4 in the periodic report?
Yes,
I'm moderately opposed to that as well. I think it's grant monies, they should be responding as required to the city rather than us directly.
Mr. Chair. I get that, it's all a balance. Part of the reason that we wanted the grants department was check and balance and auditability. And our charge was to come up with criteria so that they knew, approved and in what order. And so in the spirit of auditing, making sure that there's that line of communication, not in micromanaging, that's certainly not the case. I would not want us to do that. But just letting us know every once in a while, kind of like what we do with the recycling report and so forth. Just, keep it in front of mind, let them know that they can approach us at any time if they have need for further question or input. But to me, of my 4 items, one to raise the maximum, I'm okay with I prefer the 75, but I'm okay with 50. If it is felt by this committee that a periodic report might be looking over Martha's shoulder, that's not the intent, and if the group does not want that, I'm fine with that.
I would like to point out that this is not Martha reporting to us, this is each of the organizations that receive a grant reporting to us. That's what this language says. Periodic reports should be made to the Community Improvement Committee, including allocations, issues, need for directions and suggestions. And you would be moving that to the grant criteria. So they would be reporting to us.
That was not the intent. The implication by any issues, need for direction and suggestions would be, I'll say grants department, we don't have a grants department. It's folded under a different name, but that would be the grants department.
So I believe we can request Martha at any time to make a report to us.
That would be fine.
So I think we would not need to move. So I guess I would suggest not moving forward.
Yeah, I'll withdraw that point and,
So let's go ahead and address these individually. So we're going to be starting with the current document from Martha. Let's take a vote on whether to move in item number 1 from your document, rescue funds to those nonprofit organizations whose clientele substantially include individuals who are Bowling Green residents and have been most negatively impacted by COVID.
can we vote on that?
Yes.
I would vote yes.
yeah, I would support that, yes.
All right. If we move that in, I would like it to be moved in under the current number 1. So it would be in following, they must have a 501c3 designation, and then we would move the language from 1 to follow that sentence. And I would support that as well. Excellent.
If I could propose what would be perhaps a less controversial maybe amendment. We've got financial statements for 2020, 2021, and 2022. I would like additional information on pre-pandemic numbers, which I think will be useful in determining how much of the current need is driven by COVID versus not.
how many years are you suggesting?
We've got 3 years post-COVID, I would say 2017, 18, and 19, provided the organization was in existence for those years. Otherwise, information going back to the founder.
I'm pretty sure they're only required to maintain tax records for 5 years.
I would be okay with 5 years then, we would say 18 and 19.
I'm hesitant to increase. I will tell you honestly that I've received a complaint from one of the organizations that they feel unfairly treated because they submitted to the council through the regular funding process. And we funded everyone else, and then we're asking them to reapply for this funding through a separate entity.
If an organization has a problem with this ask in terms of reporting, I think that I personally would, that gives me a lot of pause before turning over $150,000 to whatever organization you're referring to.
Well, I'm saying that they feel like they submitted a grant already. And all of the other organizations that were not lumped into this pool did receive money directly from us. So they feel like they're being treated differently than other organizations.
Without knowing the organization, I guess I can't really speak to that. I will say that I think we could have benefited maybe from hindsight's 2020, of course, but I don't think that we were clear, and because it was not the plan at the time, that any deadline that we had set up until we adopted this program was a hard deadline.
Yes.
So what I view this entire exercise as really is establishing that formal program, doing the work up front, and I do apologize that the ARPA process has been cumbersome at times. I don't think it's unreasonable, though, to ask that any entity take the information that they've already compiled, the statements that they have already made, the financial information that they should already have on hand, repackage that, and the payoff there is going to be $25, $50, $75, $100,000.
Whatever.
It seems like a relatively small ask given that amount of money.
All right.
Mr. Chair, wanted to make sure I got this in the record, and I have copies if you'd like one. I sent earlier today, I sent what I had to Martha, and she was asking for her comment. And she had one paragraph. Hi, Bill, my concern is about number 2, where it states the nonprofits that ask that council should be first in line. I'm not sure that is fair to all nonprofits, if I may add commentary to that. These are not the usual kinds of processes that Martha deals with. If you all do choose to leave that in place, I presume there is a list of those who are, and they would still have to go through the application and review process. We, on the one hand, earlier we said Martha, we trust Martha, she does this. And so that would be, okay, if we give these organizations preference, I think we can ask for something back, which is that they go through whatever process we come up with by the end of this meeting. So it's, on the one hand, you're at the front of the line. On the other hand, you do have to fill out the forms that are needed. And then she goes on just to complete this. 100,000 is quite a high limit, but again, that is up to the committee and council. I'm interested to hear how discussions go. So that's what Martha had said.
So let's, I guess, let's go back to, I believe we're discussing on Martha's document, item 4, and how much the financial statements and budgets. So I believe that I would acknowledge that 5 years is, it would show us the pre-pandemic activity and how the pandemic affected their budgets. So I would accept adding language requesting 18 and 19 as well.
Is that part C, financial statements?
Yeah, it would be part C and part D.
And
I view a budget as a forward-looking item, whereas financial statements would be backwards looking, so for me, financial statements would be the items that I would want. I'm comfortable seconding that motion.
Oh, wait, so you were only suggesting C
Financial statements for 2018 and 19 seems to,
and not budgets?
the budgets, I agree with Jeff. What the added information that we get is, oh, in 2018, this is what they actually spent, and this is what they, at some point, budgeted. We don't really need to know what they budgeted, we need to know what they spent.
Okay.
And the budget going forward would be interesting. Maybe the budget for 2023 would be interesting. But I don't really care about the budgets for 2020, 20, and 21.
I think Martha might have to request, might need those. Because it would show what they anticipated spending versus what they actually spent. So just to clarify once again, did you want 18 and 19 financial statements only? Or did you want 18 and 19 budgets and financial statements?
it was your motion, so.
I might
What
have
you
been,
want.
I don't really want to add additional reporting burdens. So I guess I would prefer C only.
I would support that.
Great.
And myself as well.
All right. We'll have I guess, an official vote on requesting the 18 and 19 financial statements.
Yeah, I thought I just did. But yes.
Excellent.
Yes.
Fantastic. Now,
Can we go back to my item 2?
I think we have to, yes.
Okay.
So Martha had concerns about privileging people that had been through the city council process.
And again, obviously, by my talking to Martha and asking for her input, I value it. But from the standpoint of this being a rather unusual situation and not what you would typically encounter, I think that it is perfectly reasonable and in fact preferable that those that have already started the process be given preferential treatment, but they have to fill out the proper paperwork.
All right, so do we have a motion to move, to bring in section 2, which would preference people who've been in the application process up to now?
So
Is there a second? Hearing no second, I believe that motion fails.
I'm profoundly disappointed that all those people that had gone through the process had requested are not going to be given the chance, not going to be rewarded for their starting this process. And to me, when I went to that ARPA meeting, I wasn't going to vote on anything, pickleball or whatever, nothing, unless I made sure that those individuals that were most affected and were administered to through the nonprofits. And organizations like La Conexión and Bowling Green Christian Food Pantry and Brown Bag Food Project would be getting money. Now, I ended up voting for the things because we had said, well, we're going to go through this process of looping it into the grants department, and that didn't make sense. But I really am quite disappointed that we can't initially allocate based off of those that have already gone through the process. So I've said my piece.
In principle, I agree. I've also heard concerns from people who have applied and feel that one application is enough. But I think as a council, we allocated additional monies beyond the requests that we received. And we were tasked with coming up with a fair process. So we did open it up to the community beyond the people that just applied through the city council process. And we have to be fair to everyone who's now eligible.
I don't see it as an unfair provision to have those that started off given preference to an item. Now, that's not to say that someone that came in with 50,000 requests is now at 125. I'm not saying you give them 125, but what they came in with. But we'll just have to see what happens. Like I said, I'm disappointed.
And then we have one last item, which is the maximum grant of which is currently $10,000.
Make the motion that we move the maximum to 50,000. Jeff's concerned.
I will move that we raise the maximum to $50,000, which would incorporate
And I'll second.
most of the. Great, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on this? All right, I guess let's vote on it.
Yes.
Yes.
I also vote yes. So, my notes indicate that we are going to move language from Bill's item 1 to follow the current language in item 1. So both item 1 from both documents will be in the first paragraph. There was the motion to move preference for previously previous grantors has failed. The motion to move item 4, the periodic review or periodic report was rescinded. And the motion to increase the maximum grant to $50,000 passed.
Also the parts 4C.
Oh, thank you, yes. 4C financial statements for 2018 and 19 will be requested as well.
I've got another amendment, if I may. One requirement of the Bowling Green Community Foundation, I believe Greater Toledo Community Foundation, is that any money awarded through those programs needs to be spent within the next calendar year. I would support adding that. I suppose it would go maybe at bottom number 4.
I might suggest 5. Because these are grant applications would include supporting documents.
Okay.
So we should probably just make, from the amendment, I would suggest that it is item 5.
Any money awarded needs to be spent in the next calendar year.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I don't have an issue with the concept with supply chain and the process that going through the grants. They may not know that they have the amount for a while, and then as they try and disperse the amount, they may run into some post-COVID issues. So in keeping with the spirit of making it a little bit more flexible, maybe 2 calendar years would give enough time.
I think that's something that can be appealed. Like if they're having difficulties spending it, they can appeal that within,
Do we need an appeal process then?
no, I think it's in-house already. And I think if we're only giving out 50,000, it seems sort of unlikely that we're gonna give away all 500,000. So this may be something that, how long do we have the money as a city to distribute?
More than that. It needs to be allocated by 24, it's meant by 26, if I remember correctly.
Right, so we still have monies to allocate. So if we have, at the end of this year, we'll have the opportunity to look at this process and see if we can to streamline it or increase it, or it may have done its work. Because I believe we still have over $1 million that are going to be distributed.
If somehow, and it's November already, but somehow if we get the money allocated in 2022, would that be the end of 2023?
Depends on when the program is launched, I suppose. I'm hopeful that it will be by the end of this year. That's gonna depend, I think, on when we finish this up and we can start accepting applications. We could do a whole 12-month period if you prefer.
I'd be fine with rolling within 12 months.
I would move that any funds that we allocate to nonprofits may be spent in 12 months from the date of receipt.
Excellent. Is there a second? Sure. All in favor? Aye. Excellent. Are there any further issues with the document?
This is a trivial one, but the item that we passed that was rescue funds, you had said that it would go at the end of item 1. I think it might be clearer if we make it a new item 2, just remember. So my item 1 would become item 2, and then the existing item 2 would be item 3.
So we would have 1 through 6.
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And with that, I believe our work this evening is done.
Oh. Right, everybody go home now.
Thanks. We will take a 10-minute break and reconvene as a full council.
Okay.